AM radio is too important to let this moment pass us by.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Follow the money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard.
We'll compare two prices that are similar in two completely different markets to find out which bet you would take.
Weekday mornings at 6 on your home for VSiN, 94.9 The Fan and The Fan app.
Your sports live here. WBUZ HD3 Laverne. We are the Game Nashville Sports Network. ESPN 94.9 The Fan.
30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee. It's the George Plaster Show, featuring Tennessee Sports Hall of Famers Kelly Holcomb and young gun Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in on a drizzly, rainy Wednesday in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, the weather may kind of suck, but the show will not today. We got some really good things lined up for you, including the attorney that represented me in a lawsuit 22 years ago against Cumulus, Jack Waddey, to join us to give us his interpretation of Diego Pavia's lawsuit against the NCAA, and does the suit have merit? Let's start in Murfreesboro. Say hello to Kelly Holcomb. Kelly, how are you?
Good, George. How you doing?
I'm good. Have you been paying attention to this case?
I've been trying to read up on it a little bit. I really have. I'm definitely not a legal expert, but it's going to be interesting talking to Jack because I have no clue.
No, and I don't really either. I will say this. Yesterday's news that got out, essentially, from what I can tell, was the judge saying, look, I can't make a ruling until you get the NCAA people in here and let them tell me their side of the story. So We'll kind of see from there. Yeah. Okay, Billy, let's see if you've got a better looking, kind of the same, drab.
Yeah.
Not a lot of.
Are we still in Pennsylvania, Billy? What are we doing? Are you living up there now?
No, I get back tomorrow. You miss me, Kelly?
No, not really. We just need you back at the Fort Ice Center. Okay.
Hey, you got to say,
back. Let's go.
We've been able to get these shows up. No glitches.
That is a pretty big deal. Are you trying to get a little bit of leverage on George so he can pay you more?
No, I've been working on that with Tony, so we'll see how that
is. That so? Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
So when did you send the latest resume?
About a week ago. But I haven't.
How did that go over? Yeah.
I haven't heard back from Tony yet.
He never really comments when you send him, does he?
No, because I always put a stipulation in there that I don't want to be around Tony Vitello. So.
Wow. Well, if you're going to live in Knoxville, that's sort of part of the deal. So I'm assuming Terry McCormick is ready. Daily Titans Update starts our show. Oh, Lord. For those of you who can't see it, he's wearing that nasty Yankees hat. When was the last time you washed that thing?
It doesn't need washing. It's still pretty new.
When did you purchase it?
2 years ago, maybe.
Okay, so that is fairly new. Okay, so the Titans are in the market right now for offensive linemen, and apparently they have signed one.
They did. They claimed a guy named Logan Bruss, who was a third-round pick of the Rams in 2022. They claimed him off waivers. Had an open roster spot, so they just inserted him into that. He probably comes in, gets his feet wet, tries to learn a little bit of the system. He does have a little bit of an advantage in that his college coach at Wisconsin also played for Bill Callahan, and apparently uses some of the same types of blocking schemes and the wiles that we've seen Bill Callahan employ during his time here. So maybe it won't take him too long to get up to speed too much and be able to contribute something. Probably a depth piece for right now, unless the musical chairs, if they want to spin the wheel again at left tackle, it's always possible, I guess, that they could put Dylan Radens at left tackle and insert this guy at right guard, slide Radens down. So far, they've been hesitant to do that because they like the way Radens has been handling himself for the most part at right guard. But if they can't find an answer at right tackle as they continue to cycle through and recycle some of these guys, that might be an option down the road.
Terry, for a while, in particular around training camp, there was sort of this narrative that, look, Bill Callahan can fix this. We knew there were problems a year ago. Are they privately surprised at how bad this has turned out?
Well, I think it's one of those things where you can't win the Kentucky Derby on a mule, George. You gotta have guys to work with, and the guys that they have at right tackle that they've been siphoning through here are just not NFL starting caliber right tackles right now. Now, that's not to say that one or more of them couldn't get to that level, because guys improve, they learn, they grow. So it's possible that before the year's over, somebody will seize that and take it and run with it. But halfway through the season, it hasn't happened yet. So they are where they are. I think at other spots on the line, I think they're very happy with the progress J.C. Latham is making, their first-round pick at left tackle. I think they're pretty happy with the strides that Peter Skoronski's making at left guard. And I think for the most part, they were okay with the way Lloyd Cushenberry played, and now Daniel Brunskill filling in for him. I think they're okay with that. And then Radens at right guard, up until he had the turf toe last week and came back, gave up a sack, struggled a little bit. I think they were pleased with the direction he was heading. And as he gets healthier, maybe he'll revert back to the form he had before that injury.
Okay, tell me what else you may want to get out there.
Will Levis spoke to us today at the podium. He was discussing a little bit of what he did last week. Said he has the normal soreness and all in the shoulder. He expects to work through that, make his start on Sunday. Knows that the Vikings are going to bring pressure from everywhere, and then also bring a lot of disguises. They may show a look that they're bringing the house and then drop back into coverage while you're in max protection, according to what Brian Callahan said, and then you're stuck trying to complete a pass to somebody with 8 guys in coverage and you with only 2 receivers on the field and 2 tight ends or whatever. So it's going to be interesting to see the cat and mouse game and see, first of all, what Brian Callahan dials up to try and beat Brian Flores with these blitzes and these exotic schemes, and also how well Levis can execute it. Can he get the ball out of his hands? Can he build on what he learned against the Chargers and take another step this week? I think that's going to be interesting to watch on Sunday.
Terry, a very solid report. Thank you so much. Ditch the hat.
I have to keep it on for now, George. My hair looks terrible.
Oh, wow. So we have a case of hat head.
We do.
Okay. That's all we need to know. Terry, thanks as always.
See you.
Terry McCormick's Daily Titans Update. Terry, of course, with Main Street Media, and he is TitanInsider.com. Billy, I trust we have an update, and I trust it has meat on the bone.
Oh, it's got some meat on the bone, and it's brought to you by Lori Burnett Leland. You can find her online, mortgageladyyusa.com, or give her a call, 615-969-4350. Well, death, taxes, and an entertaining battle of the boulevard last night. Belmont beats Lipscomb 80-79, 12-point comeback in the final 3 minutes from Belmont. Lipscomb looked like they had it in the bag, but Isaiah Walker had an and one late, and Belmont all of a sudden has won 8 of the last 9 in this series. Lenny Acuff and the Bisons can't catch a break.
No, that's a tough loss for them, because it sure felt like at the 4-minute timeout that they were going to win. Kelly, you were there. They had, 4,400 for that game.
There was a lot of folks in there. I promise you that. There were some seats, but there weren't many left, and it was loud and it was exciting. It was a really good game. After I finished what I had to do, I snuck over there and saw what what was going on, and it was a really good game. I just you never can count Belmont out of a game, especially in the last. Like Billy said, it was like I think it was under 5 minutes, and they were up by 12, and then they didn't miss a three. They just kept hitting threes, and they were trading twos for threes, and then all of a sudden you look up and it's 5, and there's 50 seconds left, and they're 5 down, and then all of a sudden they hit another three, and then good, great. It's just I told my wife because she was with me. I said they're just. You can never count that. And Corey Alexander does a really good job. I mean, both teams are well coached. It was a hard fought game. It kind of sucked for Lipscomb. It was a tough play at the end. I think Lenny Acuff had a really good play drawn up and just missed it. It was a tough play, but that was a great game. It was something to see from all those fans.
And in fact, when Mike Organ comes on, we will, for those of you who are watching this by way of podcast, we'll show you that final play and why Belmont held on for the win. Those of you watching on radio, what can I say? Just use your imagination.
George will paint the picture, but you're right, Kelly. They had that. If that pass is just a little bit lower, maybe he handles it. But it's a game of inches, man.
Well, he had somebody guarding it. He was the inbounder, and he had somebody guarding, holding his hands.
Yeah.
That's a tough deal from almost. Yeah. It's like 3/4 of the way, and it's just if there's nobody there in front of him, he could line drive it there, but you have to get it over, and the guy has to jump at the proper time, and it was just a little off. He almost had it, but it was just a little off. Just a great game, though.
What the heck, Billy? Let's show the play for those who are watching by way of podcast. Here is the way the thing turned out from ground level. Wow. That is close to basically a game-winning slam dunk at the buzzer. And as you can tell, that was taken from about the third row. And look at the crowd at Allen Arena. Anyway, Mike Organ will join us around 3:20, and we'll talk more about last night's Battle of the Boulevard that did not disappoint as far as two really evenly matched teams.
Tennessee and Vandy in action tonight. Tennessee's got Montana at 6:00. Vandy hosting Cal, the first big test for Vandy. They're an 8.5-point favorite. So if you're looking for a game to go to, should be a good one over there at Memorial. Maction last night, boy, yeah, hit some high-scoring games. Buffalo 51, Ball State 48 in overtime. Bowling Green all over Western Michigan, 31-13, and then Toledo over Central Michigan, 37-10. And real quick, also in college hoops last night, Kentucky beat Duke for the first time in 9 years.
That was a really good game.
Unbelievable.
And man, that's a big win for Mark Pope because I feel like they needed an early win like that. And some of the quotes after it, he said, "This isn't about me. This is about this program. This is about the name on the front of the jersey." And there's a big time feeling that Kentucky was sick of Coach Cal. And
George, how does Mark Pope do that when he had no roster months ago when he took over that job? Because Calipari told him, yeah, that's true. He took everybody with him, and then he beats Duke, who's got guys on the team. I know they got new guys coming in every year, but they've still got a system. John Shire's there; he's been there, but he brought in guys, and Mark Pope was able to beat him. That was pretty incredible.
Well, only a pope could pull that off. You can't have an archbishop or a cardinal pull this off. It takes a pope. And apparently when this pope speaks, people listen. Yeah.
His story is crazy. He went to 3 years of medical school at Columbia and then ended up coaching at Utah Valley and then BYU, and now he's at Kentucky.
Billy, when I was doing Vandy games, he was on a national title team at Kentucky that was an absolute monster. Yeah, we took a timeout. We got beat one of the years when he won the national title. The two games combined 8 by 83.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, that was fun.
Jeff Shepard and those guys.
They were a bunch of studs.
Well, some more studs. We got some more MACtion games tonight, all at 6 o'clock. Miami of Ohio, about a 30-point favorite over Kent State. We'll see if Kent State can get their first win of the season this year. NIU, minus 15 against Akron. Ohio, minus 11.5 against Eastern Michigan.
If
Also,
you're wondering, there are seats available for all of those games. And in fact, I noticed last night you could buy the entire upper deck at Buffalo.
Messed up, George. They're trying, man. They're trying.
I know they are.
College football playoff rankings revealed last night is a little bit quicker, thank goodness, because it was in between games. But here's what
you
we
could have
got.
just shown mine.
Well, no, you were one off. You had.
Oh, I had SMU, and you know what? I should have SMU. They're undefeated they're unbeaten in ACC play. The committee's got it wrong. Miami right now should not be the ACC representative. Right now, it should be SMU.
Yeah, are they projecting ahead here?
Probably.
Okay,
but you'll notice all of the 5 through 12 matchups, me and they were simpatico.
I noticed that, George. I was like, George hit it pretty good right there. He got most of those people right. And they're only putting Miami there because he got one loss, and Miami's more of a brand than SMU. So they're probably trying to weaken that and show everybody that, hey, we're probably going to put Miami in there unless they do lose the ACC championship game.
Although, in the history of college athletics, no school has been more brazen about their cheating than SMU.
That's right.
Pony Express. All right. After Oklahoma's Board of Regents meeting yesterday, the president and the AD gave Brent Venables a vote of confidence. So good news for
that don't sound good.
No.
Oklahoma, you wonder, do they need to get to a bowl this year for I mean, at this point they're 5-5. They've only got one win in the SEC. They got a bye this week. They host Alabama, and then they're at LSU to end the season.
I think he and Hugh Freeze are in the same category. They're probably not going to get fired this year because there's too big a buyout. But if in year 3, what looks like it is right now continues to look that way, gone.
Agreed.
2-2 pitch, gone.
Well, we've got a Nico update. He's in concussion protocol, and his status for this weekend is undetermined. He practiced Monday and Tuesday, and Heupel said he's in great shape to play on Monday. But last night, Chris the Bear Felica went on a Georgia podcast and said Nico is not expected to play against Georgia. So there's a lot of conflicting reports out there.
So hold on. Help me with this. If he's in concussion protocol, why would he have practiced?
That's what a lot of people are saying, that maybe he was practicing, but he was walking around. I heard he wasn't in the offense's plays, practice, whatever you want to call it. So that's the update on Nico. We do have a Diego Pavia injury update. We'll get to this with Jack Waddey, more on the lawsuit with Jack Waddey, but Pavia is not practicing this week, but there's nothing structurally wrong that calls the rest of his season into doubt, Clark Lee said. He's likely to be listed as either questionable or probable going into LSU.
This kid is tough as nails. He has gotten the absolute crap kicked out of him and just keeps coming back for more. That is, to me, of all the things about this young guy, the fact that he has lived to tell about it, because Kelly, he has gotten popped.
George, that's what happens when all these guys take off running, man. It's hard. Like, quarterbacks are not built like running backs. Now, he's kind of like a running back, to be honest with you. Jalen Milroe's a running back, but like, look at me. I mean, and the guy like Peyton and Tom Brady, we're not built like that. And you just can't stand up to getting hit after hit after hit. And that's what all these guys want. Like the Lenore Sellers and all that. And eventually they're going to go down too. You just can't. I don't understand college football, but that's what it is now, and now it's creeping its way into the NFL. But you're right, George. He's got a frame because he's only 6 foot and he's like 205. He's a stocky build, but man, just repeated hits take a toll.
I told somebody the other day, I can't believe how he's still healthy right now, and how there's not something. Well, he's probably not healthy.
Nobody's healthy right now, Billy. I mean, you're towards the latter part of the season. Everybody's got some kind of nick or bruise or something going on that you just have to battle through.
I have double vision when I watch 2 TVs. You get to the end of the season, everybody's got issues.
George, have you ever had to deal with an injury?
Well, Kelly, I was a very good basketball player and suffered from a lot of sprained ankles.
Sorry, folks out there. I didn't mean to do this to y'all. Sorry.
Stupid question.
Last year, the Colts are going back to Anthony Richardson. So, and they're going to stick with him for the rest of the year. This comes after Joe Flacco's worst performance of the season, in which he had 4 turnovers and a loss to the Bills.
Joe was my age, so what did they expect?
But a year ago in Cleveland, old Joe was on the go.
What do you expect? I mean, he's going to have some games, but he's going to have some other games that are not too good. I want to know this though: how, as a teammate of Anthony Richardson's, can you trust him? Like, can you?
Hold on, we've got Billy. Go ahead and put that one up there.
Larry said it looks like George has had his nose broken.
Yes, it does.
That is great, Larry. I love that. It does.
Larry,
it looks like he got socked one night when he was running that mouth to somebody, and he lived to tell about it.
Should we go to the break on that? God, I hope so. Mike Organ is in the on-deck circle. He'll join us next on 94.9 The Fan.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, "You need to call Bart Durham." And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun.
Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com. At 615-456-7983 or log on to DonleyTimmons.com.
Hey, it's Jake Lyman. Vandy women's basketball is on the road for the first time this season on Thursday, taking on South Florida down in Tampa. Tip-off at 6, pregame coverage starts at 5:45.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan and the Game Nashville app. It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Okay, let's get right to it with the hardest working man in Nashville sports. He's the Tennesseans' Mike Organ. Mike, I know you were busy last night over at Lipscomb. Tell us what you saw.
I saw a typical Lipscomb Belmont basketball game, which might sound boring, but a typical Lipscomb Belmont game is anything but boring. As anybody that knows who's kept up with this 155-game series going back to 1953, I think. And got to see Rick Byrd, the legendary Belmont coach, was there last night. And it was just, I mean, at one point, our columnist, Gentry Estes, was sitting across the court from me. There was much media there that they had to put us on two sides of the court. And we started messaging each other. And Gentry just said, you know, Lipscomb's just got a better team this year. That's just all there is to it. This is when Lipscomb was up by 12. And I already had a nice, tidy story written about Lipscomb, you know, winning for only the third time in 22 games. And, you know, what a good team they put together, because they'd have been up by 10 for about 10 minutes, and then we're up by 12 at this point. And that was about the time that Belmont went on a tear and scored on its last 8 possessions, forced 2 turnovers, and won the game with a traditional 3-point play with 3 seconds left. So, you know, there have been so many 1- and 2-point games in this series. It's just absolutely incredible, and this was just another one of those. And they all have different endings, obviously. You know, during Bird's years, it was a lot of 3-point shots being made at the buzzer, and now it's different ways. But it's just a incredible series. And another thing, George, so good to see the place almost packed. And that's 4,022, and it sure seemed at capacity because it was so loud. The whole Belmont section was full, and it was whiteout night for Lipscomb, so it looked cool in the gym, and it's good to see all those people there.
You know, Mike, we were showing the final play. It got sent to me by a friend of mine, and you could see the place, Allen Arena. It's been a while since I've seen a Belmont Lipscomb game over there draw that kind of number.
Yeah, I was prepared for about 2,500. That's kind of what it had dipped to recently. It's often played on fall break because they're not in the same conference anymore. And so a lot of times the students aren't there, and that's a shame. And I think they've tried now. At first they tried to move it past fall break, and they'd play in early December. And now they're trying to play before fall break. And it was a really good move, because when you got the students in there, they fill up half the gym. And they had a block party last night. I mean, as soon as you got out of your car, got close to the gym, it was the place was rocking. And first you wondered if it was going to fill up, because with about 30 minutes before tip-off, it still was about a quarter full. But then all those people came in from the block party and nearly filled it up. And, yeah, I'm like you. I'd gotten disappointed. It had dropped off at Lipscomb particularly, but also at Belmont for some games. And now I hope they're back to kind of showing each other up. You know, we filled it last year. Let's see if you can do it this year.
Well, we wish both of them a lot of luck in their respective conferences. This is going to be a fun basketball season. Let's go back to football for a minute. The OVC will send at least one representative to postseason play, theirs being a playoff. Can the OVC get a second team in?
You know, George, we say every year that the top part of the OVC is always really good. We say that every year. We think that there's a shot at a team getting an at-large bid, and it's happened recently, but it doesn't often happen. But again, this year, you got to feel like there's a shot with three teams that have been in and out of the top 25. SEMO's been in the top 5 or 6 all year and leading the conference, and then UT Martin and Tennessee State have been in and out of the top 25. It could very well come down to a 3 or a 4-way tie. I talked to Kyle Swartz from the OVC this morning, and well, actually we texted back and forth, and that's what he told me. He said, you know, it could be a 4-way tie involving SEMO, Tennessee State, UT Martin, and with Tennessee Tech as an outside shot. And then it'll come down to who beat who. And the good thing for Tennessee State is they still have SEMO to play, which means that Tennessee State controls its own destiny a little bit, but they still need for UT Martin to lose because the Tennessee State lost to UT Martin.
Mike, one last thing on my end, and then I'll turn it over to Kelly. We're going to have my attorney from 20 years plus back during the lawsuit with Cumulus. Not that I'm aware of, but and I can't afford to be in trouble. But Jack Waddey's going to join us at 4:00 to give us his read on the Diego Pavia case and whether it really has any merit. What are you hearing about it?
Well, I'm hearing it's a little bit of a long shot. It's obviously not. I mean, yes, the judge ruled yesterday that he can't come back. But with the NCAA being so flimsy these days, you just don't know. You don't know how much power the NCAA has, and this will go to court and go, and we'll see. This ruling won't be the final word. And George, how many players have played 5, 6, or 7 seasons over the last 2 or 3 years? We've got them in their mid-20s now. So, his lawyer, and I think this is something Jack might talk about, is going to point that out, and how can you hinder him from making money is another thing, from making with the NIL now. So I'll be very interested to listen, and I will listen. Usually after my portion, I hang up because I'm the best part of your show, I think. So I'm going to hang up and listen.
I love it. Hey, Billy, help me with this. We have players in the NCAA, multiple players in their 8th year of eligibility. And I believe, is there not a University of Miami player that got granted a 9th year?
Tight end.
Yep.
Was it a tight end?
I think it was a tight end. Yeah, we had that one of our updates before the season. There's 8th years. Cam Rising, I think, was in his 7th. So there's 7th year guys, 6th year guys out there. I mean, and it doesn't seem like it's slowing down, especially if this JUCO deal goes through too. You'll see even more.
So Kelly, some of them come in not legally able to drink, but by the time they're through, they're on Medicare.
Yes, that is correct, George. You're absolutely right.
Say hello to Mike, by the way.
Hey, so Mike, I was go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say Kelly could have played up until about 2 or 3 seasons ago in this era. In college, you'd still be in the pros if it was the way it is now.
It's kind of crazy. So I was thinking about because I've had a trip through the Midwest this year with football and with all that, and you started talking about the OVC, and it's too bad that the OVC, you go up to these Dakota schools, and I don't know if you've ever been up through there, Mike, to go to any of those Dakota schools, but they really care about football and they're really good. So it's a shame that the OVC, that's what I played in, or the Southern Conference, they have no shot against these Dakota schools. Dakota schools are you're talking about South Dakota State, you're talking about North Dakota State. North Dakota, South Dakota is really good now, so it's kind of amazing. And these teams down here just have no shot to beat them.
No, it's really a haves and haves not at that level, on the FCS level. Yes, I went to South Dakota with Boots Donnelly's team that played the year that the quarterback got hurt, and then the backup quarterback O.J. Smith got hurt, and against Boise, and I guess it was, yeah. And I've been I've been to Montana and seen a game there. And yeah, that's all you got in those cities and in those states. I mean, that's it. And it's huge. It's huge. I talked to Brandon Fisher a lot about it. He's the defensive coordinator now at TSU, and he played up there. And Jeff Fisher, his dad, still has a home up there, and they spend a lot of time in the off season up there. And he just talks about exactly what you just said, the differences. And TSU opened the season this year against North Dakota State, which I think is still number one, and has been most of the season. And it was like going up against an FBS opponent. I mean, it's just a whole nother level. And I think that what happens is a lot of the players that don't make it at the FBS level, and especially the group of five, that's the first place they look, is to go to one of those programs, because obviously NFL scouts know that's how good those programs are. So that's where they're going to look first, and before they look at the the Big South OVC and the teams over here on this side of the country.
So, Mike, let me ask you this. I want to know, I've been thinking about this the last couple of days, but we've got the transfer portal. It seems like we talk about this every week, the transfer portal and NIL stuff. And the majority of it has been so far since it's opened up, and it's like you got FCS people coming to group of five teams, and group of five teams maybe going, and then some guys that dropping from another school, maybe going to another school. But do you foresee this coming up now? Say, let's just take, for example, a James Pierce at UT, and somebody starts throwing a lot of money. Say LSU comes along and throws a lot of money. Can you see that happening in this NCAA new day of college football or college sports? Because I know for a fact, and I think it was a high school kid, that there was a Big Ten school that offered this kid $5 million to decommit to a school in the SEC to come to them. So is this stuff just going to get outlandish with, say, a James Pierce, somebody offering maybe $10 million to come play for maybe an Alabama or an Oklahoma or something like that? Do you see that happening in the future?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I see bidding wars like that. They don't even call them, you said commitments. They didn't call them commitments anymore, because they're not that. They just, pledges or something. I can't remember the term they use now. We were talking about it in the press box last week. And, yeah, there's nothing to stop that until they form some type of structure that you can apply rules to. And that is where you get back in to denying an individual the opportunity to make money. If a kid's been offered an NIL deal at one school for X amount, and then a rival comes in and says, well, you know what, we can double that. And schools can do that when schools have money, like Texas A&M, and Tennessee has a lot of money. And schools like that, they can come in and they can do that. And I don't see any mechanism to stop it until they put some type of structure in here. And, you have to use the U word, a union. And, that's what we have in all the major sports. And I think that's what it would take for it to change on this level in college football.
So I'm going to steal one of George's questions from yesterday. I thought it was a good question, but with all the chaos that's going on right now, and there's teams in the SEC like Alabama and Georgia. Of course, Georgia's got to win, but Alabama doesn't want to go to the SEC title game. But do you think the SEC should have stayed divisions, because all this chaos is coming on? We're going to have all these tiebreakers. Do you think they should have stayed with the East and West division?
Yeah, what I was talking about a while ago, the OVC could end up with a four-way tie. And, yeah, that makes it tough. And I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but when I look at the standings on Sunday, that's the first thing I look for, is who's leading the West and who's leading the East. And then I have to remind myself there is no East and West anymore. I think that, they don't do it in basketball as much, and I think that's fine because you play so many games that there's enough evidence time to make your case and put together a record that you don't have as many that finish tied. But in football, it's so short. That's why you went to conferences into divisions in the first place, because you only play, we used to only play, 6, 7, 8 conference games, and that's usually just not enough to determine a champion. And then you get down to where you're having to do all this other stuff that doesn't really give you an indication. It's just rules you put in place to determine the winner, and you don't like it that way. You'd rather be settled on the field. So, yeah, I would have. I was never sure why we got rid of them, and now I'm like you. I'm wondering why we did.
So my last question is this. Let's just pin you down. Who you think makes the SEC title game?
Wow. I'm kind of like Kyle Swartz was this morning. He said, if you'll ask me after this weekend, I can tell you, who's going to win the championship. And I'm like, well, that's not fair. So I'm going to try to honor you, Kelly. Tennessee's playing, last week was the first time I really got a chance to see that defense, and I was really impressed. And, if Nico's injury is not as severe as we first feared, and I don't think it is, or they wouldn't let him play this week, and I think it was a good idea to get him out of there and as a precaution, then, I think Tennessee still got an outside shot, but I don't know. I still think Georgia's probably the best team in the conference, so I got to pick Georgia.
Oh, wow. But what do you think about Alabama the other night? I mean, didn't that remind you of the Alabama of old?
It absolutely did, and this kind of season, this is when Alabama does that. This is when Alabama plays its best. And I know it's DeBoer's first year, but they're still kind of doing what they did under Saban and playing so well. But with those two losses to Tennessee and Vanderbilt, but there's going to be, like we said, like we just started talking about in the divisions, there's going to be other two-team losses. So I hate to use the word toss-up, but yeah, I'd say Alabama's right there with Georgia.
Yeah, it's a long season, and all of a sudden, as we've gotten to November, things that we thought we knew in October don't look like we know them anymore.
Hey, I guess
that's the beauty of this.
I've got something for y'all here. We're halfway through November, comparing Georgia and Tennessee's schedule. So far, Georgia has played 3 home games, 4 road games, and 2 neutral site games. Tennessee has played 6 home games, 2 road games, and 1 neutral site game. So this is just the third true road game for Tennessee.
Yeah, I heard it from non-Tennessee fans from the get-go. What an easy schedule, and that's their words, not mine. But what an easy schedule Tennessee had this year, and that it was kind of laid out for them, to get in the playoffs and maybe win a championship, a conference championship, and who knows, go beyond that. But yeah, that's pretty telling, Billy, and it kind of backs up with a lot of, like I said, non-ball fans told me early in the year.
Mike, you are a good man to come on. Good stuff as always. We'll do it again next Wednesday.
All right, guys. I enjoyed being with you.
Mike Organ from the Tennessean. He is the hardest working man in sports. After the break, we'll react to some things that he reacted to on 94.9 The Fan.
This is my buddy Stan Harrison from Apple Collision Centers. Recently, you've been talking to me about companies that have a fleet of trucks and they're always in need of repairs.
That's right, George. We understand that nobody likes to deal with the auto body repair process. We try to simplify that at our 3 convenient locations. We work with all major insurance companies. We help to ease the stress of the auto body repair process. We're located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. If you need our services, please stop by and see us.
And how convenient that we have that in the background. Now, seriously, these are good folks. They do really good work. Give them a holler.
You were in a crash.
Yeah.
Your kids were in a car with you.
We're very lucky to even be telling this story to you. Nikki treated us like family, and she was very caring and loving, and I'm just so grateful for that. She was somebody I could trust, and being
a veteran. That's so important to me. My kids are going to have a better life now because I don't have to worry about those expenses that we were out. Your family has really created a legacy of trust, and I would recommend you to anyone.
Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances, and Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and wife Daphne, along with their experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life, improve your immune system, energy level, cognitive function, and more. There's no better time to achieve a healthy lifestyle. What are you waiting for? Give Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment at 615-486-3458 or visit the website coolspringsmd.com. Are you concerned about the Medicare Part D changes for 2025? Believe me, you're not alone. You need to contact Pancoast Benefits. They'll make the changes clear and easy to understand. Trust Pancoast to guide you through it all. Their knowledgeable team is here to help you understand the updates and make informed decisions about your Medicare coverage. Don't navigate these changes alone. Call Pancoast Benefits today at 615-292-3400 and choose option 3, or visit pancoastbenefits.com. That's 615-292-3400 and choose option 3.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Thought you were on your way.
Your sports live here.
On ESPN 94.9.
And the Game Nashville Sports Network. It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Now that is good music there.
That's good stuff.
Yes, it is. That's Boston, and it is More Than a Feeling. Okay, Kelly, when we have Jack Waddey on with us at 4 o'clock, one of the questions I'm going to ask him, and I'm going to explain beforehand where the question's going to come from, is does Diego Pavia have a better shot at winning this case because it's going to be heard in Nashville? And here's where I'm going with this. About the time that Major League Baseball was about to drop the hammer on Pete Rose back in July of 1989, there's a younger audience that obviously wasn't around then. It was right as I was getting my sports talk life going. And I remember I had no clue what I was doing at the time. And some of you were saying, well, 35 years later, you still don't. But here's one of the things that happened. Out of nowhere, U.S. District Judge John Hulshub issued a ruling that protected Pete Rose from either being suspended or fired. And I remember Major League Baseball was in a tizzy because they had no idea this was coming down. And all of a sudden, as Giamatti was about to drop the hammer, Rose got this 11th hour reprieve from the governor, and it really screwed things up for MLB for a few weeks.
And, there was a lot of talk that, well, this judge knows where his bread's buttered. He lives in Cincinnati. He can't rule against Rose. I'm not saying that's necessarily the case, but I do wonder if you have an advantage in a suit like this, because let's face it, the NCAA is going to be portrayed as the big bad bully. They're the mean people. They're the ones that stop athletes from attending their dad's funeral because it violates, who the hell knows what it violates, the Geneva Convention or whatever. So it's going to be the little guy against the big bully corporation. That's one of the things that's going to come up in this case.
What do you think the NCAA does? Like they're a huge company, a huge conglomerate. We get it. They're over every major college program in the country. But what happens if you get a bunch of these lawsuits like Diego Pavia is pulling off right now? What happens if you just get so many? Does that ever take the NCAA down, George?
Billy, you feel free to pop into this as well. When it got ruled that we can pay athletes, we can this, we can that, these judges never thought about the level of chaos they were creating. And they never really put any parameters in it that to me would have made a lot of sense. Like you can make a certain amount of money up to
Correct.
X.
Yes.
Okay. They just said the NCAA is bad. They've caused all this crap. And so we're going to lower the boom. And they never thought about the level of chaos they were creating. That's my opinion.
Well, I think the better question, Kelly, is, and maybe this is what you're asking, is do the schools break away from the NCAA?
I think that's eventually going to happen. We've talked about that on the show. Eventually, this is going to happen with the big 50. I don't know how many teams it's going to be, but they're going to break away from the NCAA and say, hey, y'all are not really helping us or doing anything for us. We're just going to do our own thing.
Well, I think the question is it just can the SEC and the Big Ten do it? Just them together, or do you need all four Power Four conferences? I mean, there's still so much to be figured out, I think, before that happens. But, the NIL, and take transfer portal out, but just NIL, NCAA has no control. So it's almost like they're not even really much of a factor to begin with anyway. So I think breaking away, would breaking away feel that much different than what it does now? I mean, when's the last time anybody won anything against the NCAA? Or when's the last, that's other way around. When's the last time the NCAA won anything against
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know where this is going, but it's amazing to me that the NCAA did not have a plan because they thought Congress was going to say, hey, we're going to side with the NCAA on this. And the Supreme Court, I think, said we will always go with the athlete now. And I think we've always talked about it. George brought it up. You can't get the toothpaste back in the bottle. And I've always said, and I know people get tired of hearing me say this, but athletes need something. They need something because you're making a lot of money off the backs of these athletes. But when you're talking about $750,000 for a kid for a year, it's become professional sports at that point. I don't know where you go, but I wish they would have put a cap on, okay, if you're a good player, you can make this. And, I don't know if it's a good, but you can go up to this, like George talked about. You can't go beyond this and give everybody a little sprinkle. But this is it's outrageous at where they're going, right? It's outrageous with the amount of money, and now it's going to be put on everything comes back to the taxpayer, everything comes back to the consumer, and that's what's about to happen because UT just showed it. They're raising their ticket prices, so everybody's going to start raising their ticket prices to pay for their NIL.
What it really feels like, and I know we got to go to the break because I want to get to Jack on time. If the NCAA hadn't acted like such buttholes when they were in control, maybe this would have worked out better. Maybe if they had had a human side to say, yes, your father has passed away. This is an exception. Go. Or, you don't have enough food, and you're hungry. So, if they had been a little more reasonable, maybe the courts wouldn't have bashed them the way they have. I know we got to go to the break. Stat of the day, and then prominent Nashville attorney Jack Waddey will join us to give his opinion on the merits of Diego Pavia's lawsuit against the NCAA. This is 94.9 The Fan.
Star Physical Therapy was established in 1997 with one great mission: to serve. If you're hurting, don't wait to receive physical therapy. You don't need a referral to see their physical therapist, and early morning and evening appointments are available. Make the call to 615-673-1420 and get rid of that pain. Star Physical Therapy, the official health provider of Football Friday.
Convenience and value, two words that we expect when we do business. Our goal at JHA Company is to deliver just that, both to our school partners and to our customers. Whether you're purchasing photos, yearbooks, class jewelry, letter jackets, school spirit wear, or senior graduation products, we strive to make the experience easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Find out more at jhacompany.com or call 615-867-6345 for more information. JHA, one source, one company. Or senior graduation products, we strive to make the experience easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Find out more at jhacompany.com or call 615-867-6345 for more information. JHA, one source, one company.
Here's Officer Garen Hoskins for the Metro Nashville Police Department.
The Metro Nashville Police Department is on the forefront of policing in this century, and I'm glad I'm a part of it. I'm glad I get to find other good officers, other future good officers. And if you're watching today, or you yourself or someone you happen to know is interested, join mnpd.com. Feel free to reach out to us because we need good officers, and it's a great city to work for.
Evan Canty and Michelle are unsportsmanlike.
Hear me clearly. The Bengals' season is over. They are not making the playoffs. Why do we want to keep hoping against hope? They're not a good football team. They're 4-6, and the only 4 wins they got are against teams that have 2 wins. They're not good. The Bengals aren't making the playoffs. It's over.
Evan Canty and Michelle are unsportsmanlike.
I don't think we're being fair to the Eagles. Other teams around the league have lost games that they're not supposed to lose. I have a tough time not giving a team credit that was dealing with all of the Sirianni turmoil. The fact that even a week ago we thought, could he be gone if they lost the Jaguars? I'm just going to give them a little bit more credit than you guys are.
Unsportsmanlike. Weekday morning starting at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN2. You can't miss a moment with Greeny.
Caleb Williams wanted to go to Washington and didn't want to go to Chicago. Now you're seeing why. This thing is a disaster because everyone saw it coming. If you were a quarterback and you had all the talent in the world, would you want to go pay for Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron for a franchise that has not developed a quarterback in literally 100 years? No, you would not. And so now they're getting exactly what you saw coming.
Mike Greenberg, Greeny.
Micah Parsons gets you a king's ransom. I'm old enough to remember the Herschel Walker trade. I was working in the media when it happened. And I remember people saying, I can't believe the Cowboys would trade him away. Oh, the Vikings will never lose again. And the Cowboys turned all of those picks into teams that won 3 championships in the next 6 years.
Greeny, weekday mornings at 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio. Plus, you can watch and listen on the ESPN app.
Your sports live here. WBUZ HD3 Laverne. All around the world on the Game Nashville app. We are the Game Nashville Sports Network. ESPN 94.9 The Fan. A Cromwell media station.
It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
5 o'clock hour here on the George Plaster Show. Coming up, Nashville attorney Jack Waddey diving into the Diego Pavia against the NCAA battle. We'll see what happens. Should be interesting, but looking forward to talking to Jack. But first, stat of the day brought to you by Apple Collision Centers. They got 3 locations, one in Old Hickory, one in Hendersonville, and one in Gallatin. Give them a call, 615-754-9800, or log on to their website. That's applecollisioncenters.com. All right. We're going with some college hoops today for stat of the day. Kentucky beat Duke last night in the Champions Classic. When was the last time Kentucky beat Duke?
Okay, Kelly, I'm going to load one up on you, and I don't know if this is correct or not. Kentucky beat Duke in the NCAA tournament down in Tampa. And I don't remember what year it is, but something tells me that's the last time Kentucky beat Duke.
Oh, wasn't it 2015?
I don't know. This is one.
Are you asking for the year, Billy?
Yes.
Well,
I think it
you're
was
not
2015.
Okay, we'll go with Kelly's because he's been on a roll. But there was also a regional in Tampa where Kentucky beat Duke, and it surprised people a little bit. Let's see what the correct answer is.
Make it 3 straight, Kelly.
Kelly Holcomb is on fire. What kind of drugs are you using?
I don't know, dude. I have no idea.
Wow. Impressive.
I think that came on the didn't that not come on the TV last night, Billy?
Yes, it did.
That's what
Billy,
I thought.
Check out mine though. During this interview, Kentucky beat Duke in Tampa in an NCAA regional game, and I don't know how long ago it was. That was the first thing that came to mind. Anyway, 4 o'clock hour has begun. We welcome all of you in. The Diego Pavia lawsuit against the NCAA has been the topic of a lot of water cooler discussion. The problem is most of us are not attorneys, even though I try to act like one. And so I really don't have a lot of basis for opinions. So I've asked one of the smartest people I've ever dealt with, prominent Nashville attorney Jack Waddey, to join us to talk a little bit about this. Jack, how are you?
I'm good, George, and you?
Doing good. Thank you for coming on with us.
Absolutely. And thanks for the kind words.
Well, God knows if anybody should say them, it's me. Is what the judge did yesterday, the ruling he made, essentially saying to Pavia's group, look, I've got to get the NCAA in here, hear their side of the story before I can do anything?
I think that's a fair interpretation. He did say kind of a little dig at Diego that he's known about this for a long time. He could have teed this one up well before now, and with this portal thing opening on December the 9th, I think it is, and open for a pretty short window, he should have probably thought about acting before now. He's still in the season, so it's not like I can't do this because I'm in the season and I don't have time to do this. But I'm empathetic to his situation because I understand. I've talked to the lawyer that actually filed this lawsuit. He's a Texas lawyer, and a very good lawyer, about it. And he said that they had been in conversations and attempting to work things out with his NC2A for months and worked really hard to try to get something going. And so it sounds like he may have been led on a little bit, and now he finally had to pull the trigger.
So you talked to Diego's attorney today?
Yes.
Wow. What else did he tell you?
I can tell you, George, you'd have to kill you and all your audience. That wouldn't be good. No, really. He feels good about the case. There's a case out of East Tennessee involving the NC2A trying to shut down the UT cooperative or collaboration or whatever it is, and giving money directly to players and that sort of thing. And the court said, that ain't gonna work. We're not gonna give the NCAA that kind of power. And the court acted quickly on it based on sort of a little bit of similar circumstances. There being urgent time frames with signing of players and that sort of thing, and the court acted pretty quickly. So he said he was not surprised by the court putting it off until the NCAA got a chance to respond. And he was pleased that the court said he was going to set a schedule that would allow him to have enough information that he could make a reasonable decision before the critical dates that are involved here. So I think that the judge will probably make that effort to get that done. He does not want to and would not want to, I don't think, put a guy in a predicament where he can't re-sign. Vanderbilt won't re-sign him unless they know he can play and commit a bunch of money to him. Nobody else will commit a bunch of money to him until they know he's going to be available. And if he gets available in February, March, or April, the money's already been spent. So, and he's only got 1 year left under the best circumstances to play. So he loses his last. He can play another year, but he ain't going to get paid for it probably in the same manner. Although
Jack,
I suspect, being an old Auburn guy, George, that Auburn would go find money in the sofa cushions to bring him down there and let him play there.
I love it, the sofa cushions. So if you were, and I'm sure you've played this out in your mind a little bit, if you're Diego Pavia's law group, what is their best argument to try to win this case? And if you're the NCAA and you're the attorney representing them, what is their best argument in this case?
Well, on the plaintiff side, Pablo's Diego's case, there's a number of instances where similar circumstances. Let's say you go to Innsworth High School and you're a pretty good player and you've got offers from, some mid majors, Arkansas Pine Bluff and some places that have nice programs, and you're a pretty good player. So you could play at a good place, but you want to play at an SEC school. So you decide to take a year and go to a prep school up in Connecticut where they got these post high school programs. And you go up there and you play and you improve your stock, and then you go to the NCAA. Well, you can play 4 years, and if it had been let's take the COVID thing out of it, because that's not where we are now. You could sign with an NCAA school and have 5 years to play 4 seasons, assuming you don't get a medical thing. Now, if instead of going to a prep school to get some extra work in so that you can play in the SEC, you go to Gulfport, Mississippi's junior college for a year and play, and then you go to sign with the NCAA team in the SEC, but you only get to play 3 years. Does that sound really fair?
Not right off the bat, but what happens when you've got some kid that's 31 years old and has played this thing out forever? Is that what we want?
Well, I'm not sure that this affects that. You cannot, junior colleges only go for 2 years. So the most you could do is 2 years. But look at this. Chris Winkler, I think is his name, is the guy that won the Heisman Trophy at Florida State.
Yeah, Chris Winkie.
Yeah, Chris Winkie.
Yeah. Chris Winkie, yeah. He played professional baseball, and after 6 or 7 years, enrolled at Florida State and won the Heisman Trophy when he was 28 years old. I mean, he didn't get punished because he didn't go straight into school and because he was 28 years old. And I don't know that it, first of all, it's like whistling through the graveyard, man. It ain't going to happen a bunch. I mean, it may happen occasionally, but it doesn't happen a bunch. Guys want to get in school, play, get out of school, move on. There'll be one or two renegade people that might want to play till they're 28 and never be able to really walk real well. But that's few and far between. We shouldn't make policies based on such minimal impacts. Does that make sense?
Yep. Tell me what you think the NCAA's best counter argument is.
Well, the best counter argument is that we are an organization that is allowed to make its own rules as long as they don't violate somebody else's rights. We can put limitations on who can play and how long they can play, because this is an agreement among a group of schools. We are the representative in this case for a group of schools, and they only want JUCO players to play the number of years that they have left out of 4 total years. In other words, they go and they play JUCO 2 years, they got 2 years left in college. They play JUCO 1 year, they got 3 years left. I mean, and we only want JUCO players to play the number of years they have left out of a 4-year chance to play. And what they are going to say is that this young man has gotten the opportunity to play 4 years of football, 2 years at JUCO and 2 years at the NCAA. And if he's Pro Bowl capable, they'll find him. And I mean, not Pro Bowl, but professional NFL capable, they will find him. I mean, they find them everywhere. So you couldn't even hide if you were good. So you're going to get seen. And then the next question is, but I won't get any money because people are not going to know how good I am until maybe I finish my first year at the NCAA programs. And so I have 1 year left to earn money rather than 2 that everybody else gets. Like if you go to the Army, you can play for they have teams that are associated with the various training camps, and they're full-blown football teams. And you can play 2 years in the Army and then come back and play 4 full years for the NCAA. And the argument of the players and for Diego is that, look, I'm not good enough, in all likelihood, not good enough to play pro ball or make a boatload of money. But I am good enough right now. With one more season, I can make another $1 million. That's a lot of money. And you're denying me that opportunity.
Kelly, say hello to Jack Waddey. Don't ask him any questions about me.
Well, for one, I'm sorry that he knows you, but Jack, I've just got really one question because I think George did a really good job, and this is kind of over my head. But I remember signing a scholarship, and that's a contract. And I'm just asking this. This may be a dumb question. You may not know. I'm sure you probably do. But when they're presenting this NIL to kids, and the example I'm going to use is the UNLV kid back in the early part of the season. He played really well, and then he was promised this money and never got this money. How is the NIL stuff happening? Are they writing it into scholarships, or is it like I'm going to give this to you, this is what are you going to get? Or how are they presenting that to the kid, and how are they getting the money to the kid?
Well, these alumni first of all, let me say, clearly I don't know the answer to that question, but I can kind of talk it through with you and probably give you a likely scenario. I do know that there are these alumni groups that raise money to make money available to pay for NIL money to the student athletes. I think that the way this probably happens is that a player, to some extent, there are programs now that evaluate a player's NIL worth. Okay, you see that on the internet and stuff. But let's say a player's got an NIL value of, $200,000 a year. All right. So he will sign an agreement with, I think he signs it with the alumni collaboration that's being puppet string pulled by the coaches for that $200,000, and that's a deal with the collaboration, not with the school. And for that, he's going to show up at the local automobile dealership and sign some, autographs, or he's going to do something to promote that business. And so and like Vanderbilt, I mean, they have this, I forget the name of it, collaboration, and they go out and they work to find people who will provide money and basically employ these people, not as an employee, but as a sort of a contract person to promote their business. And so the agreement is between the collaboration, who then assigns him to do something or the other. People that contribute the money, they get choices on how they do it and that sort of thing. I don't know exactly how that runs.
Jack, let me, Billy, I see you there. Go ahead.
Hey, Jack, real quick. I know we got to get to the break here after one more, but apparently today.
No, we don't.
Okay, never mind.
No, we don't.
So George has one. Okay. So, but a telephone status conference has been set for tomorrow afternoon to discuss the briefing schedule and the hearing. Where does this go from here? And I guess what I'm asking is how quick, and I'm not asking you to tell me the timeline, but I guess rough draft here for you. What could the timeline look like from here on out?
I think I recall from my conversation with Diego's lawyer this morning that he and his group were asking that the all briefs have to be filed before Thanksgiving, the week before Thanksgiving, or that sometime before Thanksgiving.
Right.
The NCAA has asked for it to be sometime during the week after Thanksgiving. So they're pretty close, and they might be able to agree. And I suspect the judge might put down an order for an early filing, because the people representing Diego, they know what they're doing. I did not talk to the lawyer about this, but they've clearly teed this up. They were ready to go when they did it because they knew they had to go in a hurry. So their briefing is not going to be difficult. And the lawyers that have defended NCAA are from Washington, D.C., and they must have defended dozens of these cases. They know exactly what they're going to say and probably got a brief in the can that they can pull out and modify and make it work. So I would not be surprised if the judge says you need to get everything filed before Thanksgiving, and then immediately after Thanksgiving, we'll set a hearing and sometime in that first week so that I can rule by December the 9th.
Jack, two things before we go. Based on your conversation with Diego's attorney, is the intention on their end 100% that he's coming back to Vandy if he wins the case? Or is it more he's going to go open market and see where Vandy fits in as compared to Auburn, Florida State, and every other school that's desperate for a quarterback?
I did not talk to him about that, and I have no input, although my guess would be he will stay at Vanderbilt. I mean, it's a perfect fit, in my judgment, because he has elevated Vanderbilt's program. He could help keep it at a much higher level than it's been in the past. And those other programs that you're talking about, they tend to be looking for guys that have a shot at the NFL, and I don't think he does necessarily. I mean, as great an athlete he is in college, I don't think he's a pro candidate. Although what's the guy from Arizona, who's another one of these examples? He played baseball for 4, 5, 6 years and then went to Oklahoma and won a Heisman. I mean, maybe it's a good way to earn a Heisman and go play baseball for 6 years.
Okay. In your professional opinion, what are the odds that Diego Pavia can win this lawsuit?
He's on the positive side of that, in my judgment. I don't know if I would put a percentage on it, but I'd say If I were putting money on it in Vegas, I would say it's more likely he's going to win it than the other way around.
Well, you've got more money than I do, so when you go out there, put $10 on it for me as well.
I mean, with all the advertising it's done about gambling, I think you can find a source to put that money on right here. I'm not a gambler because it's too hard for me to find money in them sofa cushions. But
hey, thank you for doing this.
Oh, I enjoyed it. It's always great to talk to you guys.
I hope we can do it again when something more definitive comes down.
Well, something's going to happen in the next 3 weeks for sure. We'll have some answers, and then we can talk again if you'd like. Love to.
I would love that. Jack, thank you.
Okay, you're so welcome. See you, George. Bye.
Okay, one piece of news that we got out of this, and I know we're late and we probably got to go to the break, but he revealed what we've suspected, which is Pavia's group had gone to the NCAA and said, hey, what about this? And the NCAA, in typical butthole fashion, said, oh, we have rules. Well, we'll see how those rules play out.
That's kind of amazing that he thinks that he's on the positive end, man. That is that means a lot to a lot of guys if they do win this lawsuit. It means a lot to a lot of people.
Billy, where are we going after the break?
Brandon Marcello from CBS Sports 24/7 as well. One of the best national college football reporters. Talk about this weekend's games, but also the college football playoff picture. Looking forward to it. Should be fun.
Okay, this is 94.9, The Fan.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, you need to call Bart Durham. And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun. Here's Officer Garen Hoskins for the Metro Nashville Police Department.
The Metro Nashville Police Department is on the forefront of policing in this century, and I'm glad I'm a part of it. I'm glad I get to find other good officers, other future good officers. And if you're watching today, or you yourself or someone you happen to know is interested, join MNPD.com. Feel free to reach out to us because we need good officers, and it's a great city to work for.
Are you concerned about the Medicare Part D changes for 2025? Believe me, you're not alone. You need to contact Pancoast Benefits. They'll make the changes clear and easy to understand. Trust Pancoast to guide you through it all. Their knowledgeable team is here to help you understand the updates and make informed decisions about your Medicare coverage. Don't navigate these changes alone. Call Pancoast Benefits today at 615-292-3400 and choose option 3, or visit pancoastbenefits.com. That's 615-292-3400 and choose option 3.
Convenience and value, 2 words that we expect when we do business. Our goal at JHA Company is to deliver just that, both to our school partners and to our customers. Whether you're purchasing photos, yearbooks, class jewelry, letter jackets, school spirit wear, or senior graduation products, we strive to make the experience easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Find out more at jhacompany.com or call 615-867-6345 for more information. JHA, one source, one company.
Basketball is on the road for the first time this season on Thursday, taking on South Florida down in Tampa. Tip-off at 6, pregame coverage starts at 5:45.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan and the Game Nashville app. It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
We are back here on the show. Billy, you may need to guide me a little bit. Is Brandon ready?
He is.
Okay, let's bring him up here. Brandon Marcellus covers college football nationally for CBS Sports. Brandon, thank you for taking the time to come on with us.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate it.
Right before you came on, an attorney that represented me in a lawsuit 22 years ago against Cumulus came on to talk about Diego Pavia's lawsuit against the NCAA. He talked to Pavia's attorney earlier today, and when I asked him to put odds on Pavia winning, he went with better than 50-50. What I want to know from you is, if Jack Waddey is right and Pavia wins this lawsuit, what does this mean big picture?
Well, it opens the flood doors for similar lawsuits, obviously, as we've seen throughout the NCAA's recent history, the last 3 to 4 years. Whenever they get taken to court, and if a judge sides with the person suing the NCAA or going against them, usually that opens the door for everybody else, whether to take it to court or the NCAA to step back and go, we're relaxing our rules. We're not going to deal with this anymore. We don't want to deal with legal fees and all that stuff. It'll be interesting to see play out. I'm not too familiar with the actual particulars and what exactly they're arguing and how they're going about it, but something's obviously to monitor if Diego's able to get another year.
Brandon, I think people here obviously hope that it means he stays at Vandy, but given the nature of the quarterback world and the Florida States and the Auburns and the Oklahomas, real powers that are hurting right now because they don't have a quarterback, if he went on the open market, what could he command?
Easily over $1 million. North of that, most likely. I mean, you've got quarterbacks out there like Nico just down the road at Tennessee is getting about $10 million is from what we're hearing. So in his contract. So yeah, he would definitely be someone, especially because this year, this quarterback transfer market is going to be really light on star power. And you've got a lot of power programs out there looking for quarterbacks, whether it's a Florida State, Michigan, potentially USC if they lose Miller Moss, potentially if he enters the portal after getting benched. There's a lot of opportunities out there if some big name wants to enter the market. But, as of right now, there isn't like really a lot of big name quarterbacks even really out there that would get necessarily a lot of attention. But because that pool is going to be so shallow, whoever jumps in it is going to be able to command a higher payday than say they were going to be able to last year when the quarterback market was a little bit more flush with talent.
By the way, my apologies. I mispronounced your last name. That's pitiful on my end. 50 lashes after the show's over. Thank you, Billy. Tell me this. Speaking of quarterbacks, Here we are with Florida State, and we now know exactly what we know. It has been a grade A disaster. Is it a disaster because ultimately he chose DJ Uiagalelei over others, or was this the best he could do?
I don't know if it was the best he could do, but as we know, Cam Ward was involved in their sweepstakes as well. It's between Florida State and Miami was able to come through in the 11th hour with a little bit more money. Are things quite different at Florida State if Cam Ward's there? Yeah, they're definitely a bowl team. I'm not so sure that they're in Miami's seat. But it's fascinating because so many people in the industry looked at that roster and thought, well, they got more draft picks on this roster now. They lost a lot, but they put in a lot of talent, especially along the defensive line. You had folks like Nick Saban and other NFL scouts saying it's the best defensive line in the country back in the preseason. They have some good pieces there. And because the situation wasn't quite working out at quarterback, and then obviously a receiver, and then things started to dovetail and fall down the hill a little bit. There wasn't really any time for that unit as a team to really gel when those losses start piling up. They could have been a much better team with a better quarterback, and there's several programs out there that missed out in the transfer portal this past year, that are probably wishing that they would have put up more money for guys, Florida State being one, obviously. Auburn's another one. They should have went to the portal and got someone. Heck, even a Malik Murphy who ended up going to Duke. He's someone that could have been a possibility for Auburn. Maybe they're a this year as a result. It's just one of those situations, man, where, you start listening to the wrong people and you do it enough, it can really sink you really fast.
We have our own quarterback, Brandon. We're worried about losing Kelly Holcomb at over 50 years old. He's threatening to go in the portal. Kelly, tell him what the offers are.
Well, there's none anymore. I can't even throw a ball, man. I had my living throwing a football, and I've got like frozen shoulder now, so I can't do it. So, but when you're talking about this all Brandon, is this stuff? Is it good for the game? Because I'm a quarterback, and I'm gonna be honest with you. Obviously, I couldn't run. I had to use my mind. I threw the ball well. I was very accurate. Nowadays, these guys want these quarterbacks that can get them out of bad play call and get them out of bad plays, run around. I don't like it. It's kind of unwatchable. It's getting unwatchable to me for the penalties. But is this transfer stuff good for the game? I know that's where we are, but is it good for the game?
Yeah, I think the bigger question with that is is it good for player development? And no, it's not.
Correct. Yes.
The quarterbacks aren't being developed like they were 2 years ago, let alone 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And because of the systems, not to say the systems become simplified, but it's almost like, you're not necessarily making reads and reading defenses as much as anymore as it is, here's your 2 spots where we want you to throw the ball to the field. And that's what this has kind of turned into for quarterbacks. And then if it's not there, they take off running. You need an athletic quarterback to make that stuff work because they don't really have a lot of options in their offense. They're not actually sitting there and dissecting the defense based off of how a defense is moving pre-snap or anything like that. And I think it's really hurt development of players, especially at the quarterback's position mostly. And that'll continue. It's only going to be compacted even further because of the transfer portal, because you're going to have quarterbacks, as we've seen the last few years, stay somewhere for 1 or 2 years and then go somewhere and then go somewhere else. And yes, it's good to have experience in a system, but to bounce around back and forth like that is not necessarily going to prepare a lot of these guys for the NFL, let alone, I should say prepare them to win championships in college, let alone be an NFL quarterback.
In your opinion, how difficult is it for a coach in today's game to mold a team? It's like, I know Lane Kiffin talked about it 2 years ago at the SEC Media Days, but he's been one of the biggest guys to go out and get people. But how do you, back in the day, you could mold your team. You knew you had a kid. You just talked about it. You knew you had a kid for 4 or 5 years, and you could mold him into what you want. And now, if somebody gets upset, somebody gets pissed off, Miller Moss not playing, he gets benched, he's going to go somewhere else. There's no, I don't know. I just how hard is it for a coach to have any stability in his program?
It's very difficult. And heck, you've even to a certain extent, you see at Colorado, I mean, they're just reloading every year with the transfer portal. But even Dion, his point is if I sign 25 kids, freshmen out of high school, half of them might enter the portal before I even get to the season, before their first season, because that's how it's happening everywhere. They get on campus. They know they're not going to play as freshmen. They end up hitting the portal to go get more money somewhere else. So his whole plan there, which is different from a lot of people, is I'm going to go in the transfer portal, get kids who are going to come in and play right away, and then I'm going to go recruit 10 freshmen. And then I know that I've maybe played those 10 freshmen or most of them, and I know I'm not going to lose them, and then they can stay in the program here year after year after year. Up until this year, I thought the coach who had really done the best job of building a roster, holding it together, but also complementing the pieces with great transfers was Florida State, because of the success they had in the previous 2 years before this year. It was a good mix of high school talent, and then also some transfers they had come in, some high-powered transfers. And then now they lose all those guys, and they have to almost hit immediate course correction and hit the transfer portal to fill all those holes, and it just didn't work out. I don't know if there is a perfect blueprint right now, because all it takes is like 2 or 3 bad apples in the bunch, and that could spoil the whole thing for you these days.
So talking about coaches, Kurt Cignetti at Indiana has done an unbelievable job. My son was at Troy. They played James Madison. James Madison was ready for the jump to FBS, and they've done really well. But that just makes me think, like, used to back in the day, you wanted to be a head coach at Ohio State, or you wanted to be a coach at Alabama, or you wanted to be at USC or Michigan or one of these big schools. But now you got a guy like this that we're seeing on the video here that has gone to Indiana and he's winning games. I mean, is the big school now big for these coaches to go there and say, hey, I coached at Alabama, or can they do it at an Indiana, or can they do it at a Syracuse, or can they do it at a smaller market school where they can win because they've got a good NIL collection deal or whatever they call it, and can they do it, and is the big jobs, an eye opener for these guys to go get, or can they do it at any school now?
I don't think you can do it at any school. I also think that the shine comes off the apple a little bit after a couple of years if there is some success at a smaller school like Indiana. But if you have a large NIL collective and you're paying money, you're being able to attract some different types of players there. And also, listen, even if Indiana or even a Colorado this year has things figured out, so to speak, or it seems like they've got things figured out because they're having success right now, well, guess what? The game's changing again here in the next fall. We're with revenue sharing. Everybody's going to be on the same playing field almost, with $20.5 million paid out to their athletes in addition to the NIL collective. So you're going to have to spend even more money than you're doing so now. And the question is can an Indiana compete with that? Can a Colorado compete with that? Can a mid-tier school compete with that? I still think that the bigger jobs are enticing the coaches. Heck, just look at last year with Kalen DeBoer leaving Washington for Alabama. Washington's got a really good NIL situation up there. No one really talks about it, but their situation's very, very good, which is why Jed Fish left for Arizona to go to that job, by the way. But DeBoer wanted to leave to Alabama because it was Alabama. There's a handful of jobs out there that everybody still sees as the top job, but I still don't believe you can just win anywhere because of the transfer portal NIL. Because if that was the case, we'd see more success stories, may not to the level of Kurt Cignetti, but some other ones that have been going on the last 2 years, and we haven't quite had that.
Brandon, appreciate you coming on. I got an SEC playoff question for you. So a lot of people out there saying the SEC later, earlier in the season, it could get 5 teams in. That feels, out of reach right now. But how do you look at where the SEC stands right now? And what does this Georgia-Tennessee game mean? Because I've heard from a few people saying Georgia could still lose and still have a shot, and so could Tennessee. So how are you looking at that game, but also how are you looking at the entirety of the SEC right now?
I mean, I think you look right now, the SEC is probably assured 3. Maybe they can get 4 depending on if there is a Georgia with a third loss in there and kind of what that looks like if Tennessee continues to win. The conference that's in the best situation right now is the Big Ten. They've got 4 of the top 5 teams in the rankings right now. If Indiana were to somehow go over and beat Ohio State in a couple of weeks, I would say the Big Ten's assured to get 4 teams in, and that probably actually end up hurting the SEC, and the SEC would end up getting 3 teams. What's going to be fascinating about all this is whenever it does play out, when it does play out here in December, does the SEC sit there and go, all right, we only got 3 teams in if this happens, and Big Ten got 4 teams in. So why do we need to go to a 9-conference schedule in the SEC if you don't respect our strength of schedule already? Why are we going to make it even tougher on ourselves? That's something they'll have to discuss in the future. Also, it's going to add more spice to the conversation when they discuss expanding this playoff to 14 or 16 teams here in the next couple of years. Because all these conferences have been waiting to get data points based off how the committee judges things this year on how many teams they're going to get in. I mean, the SEC and Big Ten has previously said they wanted a 3 to 4 automatic qualifiers or whatever in a new expanded playoff to 14 or 16 teams. They've backtracked on that, but the only reason why they've backtracked on that is because they're waiting to get these data points. And here in real time, these first couple of weeks of the CFP rankings, I think the first thing I've learned from watching all this is that the SEC is beating up on each other right now. It's a deeper conference from top to bottom than the Big Ten, but the Big Ten's really strong at the top, and as a result, they've got 4 of the top 5 teams. But if the bottom half of the Big Ten was a little bit stronger, they'd probably be in a similar situation as the SEC. But the problem now is that the SEC is so much stronger top to bottom, and they're playing one last conference game. What does it really matter when it comes to strength of schedule? Just because we have a greater strength of schedule, that leads to more losses. And why would the SEC, which has been talking the last few years about going to 9 conference games, why would they put that more on themselves going in the future?
Who you got, Georgia or Tennessee?
Georgia, I got them. Tennessee's played bad on the road all season. The offense has struggled quite a bit throughout the year since that non-conference slate. I watched them in person twice this year against Oklahoma and against Arkansas when they were upset by them. And the big question, of course, is whether Nico Iamaleava is going to be able to play this week with him in concussion protocol. Even if he does play, I've got questions about Tennessee being able to string drives together against this Georgia defense. And also, I think Georgia obviously is playing with their backs against the wall a little bit, knowing that they're probably playing for their college football playoff for lives, and they're going to be playing at home. I think Georgia ends up winning this one.
Brandon, first of all, you are terrific. Promise me you'll come back on sometime down the road so I can try to say Marcello and get it right.
That's all right. Hey, listen, I've been called every name in the book. Just go ask some head coaches I've had to deal with in the past.
I don't doubt that at all. Listen, thank you for the visit.
Hey, no problem. Anytime. Thanks guys.
Brandon Marcello writes nationally for CBS, and the topic, obviously, is college football. So we have had a jam-packed 4 o'clock hour. We will break it down a little bit, talk about what we have heard when we come back on 94.9 The Fan.
You were in a crash.
Yeah.
Your kids were in the car with you.
We're very lucky to even be telling this story to you. Nikki treated us like family, and she was very caring and loving, and I'm just so grateful for that. She was somebody I could trust, and being a veteran, that's so important to me. My kids are going to have a better life now because I don't have to worry about those expenses that we were out. Your family has really created a legacy of trust, and I would recommend you to anyone.
Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
You know, starting to save for your future doesn't have to be difficult. Let Wilson Bank and Trust help tone up your financial goals this year. Our certificates of deposits or CDs can help your money work harder with our competitive rates, earning you more than ever before. WBT checking options allow you to earn rewards you can really use, like a high interest rate or cash back on check card purchases when you meet some e-banking qualifications. Visit your closest Wilson Bank and Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC.
Your sports live here
On ESPN 94.9. The Fan.
And the
on Game Nashville Sports Network.
It's the George Plaster Show.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Okay, I want to play the what if game with you guys for a minute. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's say that Jack Waddey's prediction ends up being correct and Diego Pavia wins his lawsuit against the NCAA. I don't know whether that means he'd be allowed to play one more year or two. My suspicion is one, but whatever. Then does it become a deal where Diego and his team go to Clark Lee and say, listen, if all is pretty equal, I want to stay here. I want to stay with Jerry Kill, but I've been getting my butt kicked. You have got to go out before I commit to this again and get me some serious help. Help as in big time receiver, help as in big time running back, help as in the fact that I'm staying is going to get you a lot more NIL money. Help me. If you don't help me, I'm not staying here.
Yeah, I look at it. I think you're 100% right, George. He probably needs a couple. I mean, the receivers they've got now are not game changers. Like Junior Sherrill is a slot guy that's reliable. You know, Quincy Skinner, you know, they don't have a guy that you can rely on a 3rd and 9 or 10. I mean, they've got Eli Stowers, but they just don't have a game changer at receiver. I think they need at least one, maybe two of those. And, you know, if you get Pavia back, we had a comment earlier from Trevor on YouTube saying that if Pavia comes back, you know, others will come back as well. And that's a really good point to remember. So not only will they have to attract, they'll you know, attract some guys in the portal, but they'll attract guys that are already on the team right now, which I think might be even more important. You know, some of the guys, you never know which guys are going to be big gets, big keeps if you keep them. You know, some of the biggest gets are the ones that are already on your team. So I think, but it is big, George, and the offensive line I think has to get better, a good bit better. Probably they got exposed against South Carolina. So offensive line and receiver, defensively, I mean, you know, I think they're bringing in players, you know, for Clark's defense. I think they'll be fine defensively. But that, Kelly, that's what, if you're Pavia, you've got the leverage here. You know, if you win the case here, you say, hey, I don't want to, you know, risk my career again with some of these hits. And he's kept playing. But I think George is right that you've got the leverage and you can negotiate and say, hey, get me a couple good receivers here and let's bolster this offensive line.
If he wins this case, guys, I'll take it a different way. If he wins this case, if you build it, they will come. If he stays, he's already got a proven track record. That people are going to come to play with him because they know he can win games. They know he's going to get them the ball. Now, on the other thing about being beat up, George, he brings a lot of that on himself now because that's just the type of player he is. He's not a traditional drop back pass guy. He can do it, but he's going to take off. When guys are not open, he's going to take off. He can use his legs. He's stocky. We've already talked about it. So he brings a little bit of that on himself, and he lowers his shoulder like we talked about Will Levis. He's that type of player. But if he does come back, I guarantee you Clark Lee and his staff are praying that he wins this case so he can get at least another year, because that can get them in another situation where they can maybe find the next Diego Pavia instead of having to rush through it. They can use him for another year. But I think receivers, I think running backs, I think linemen, because you can come to Vanderbilt now and you can win games. And if you can get another tier player at a receiver or at a running back or the tight end or somewhere like that, that can kind of get you over winning 6 or 7 games, maybe to 8 or 9 games the next year.
Okay, y'all tell me if you think I'm right about this. Look, he's never going to play in the National Football League, but the Canadian Football League, man, it was built for Diego Pavia.
There is I'll use this as an example. Good gracious! But there was a guy at Georgia Southern named Tracy Ham. Do you remember him, George?
Oh, absolutely.
Tracy Ham. He ran the wishbone at Georgia, and then he went and he played in the CFL. That reminds me of Tracy Ham. Diego Pavia does, who went and played in the CFL for a lot of years and won a lot of games. I think he won a couple of Grey Cups up there. So that would be the perfect fit for what he does.
Pavia believes he's going to play in the NFL. That's how much belief he does, and maybe he doesn't. He probably doesn't. But I think that's what makes him so good is that he believes he's the best player in the country. He believes that he's going to be playing on Sundays, and that's infectious. We talked about him all season, but I think right now, guys, there's a little bit of adversity right now. I mean, he's banged up, probably the most hurt he's been all season. He's dealing with this battle against the NCAA. If you're Pavia, there's a lot going on right now. And I'm interested to see, and I'm not saying that the suit affected how they played against South Carolina, because I thought Pavia still played pretty well and put it all out there and did everything he could. But with this program, George, I mean, it's going to be really interesting. If they don't win this, they've got to be prepared to respond from that. Right.
Yeah, the beauty is they're going to get the answer pretty quick. And so this is not going to go on very long. Now, Billy, let me say this. My understanding is that basically Diego is getting this free of charge.
Yep.
He is getting a free swing on the house. Think about it. How many of us in our lives get a free swing on the house? If I win, I get probably $1 to $1.5 million. If I lose, I don't get squat.
And
I'll take that. I'd take those odds.
But I don't have to pay anything either. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I mean, I would have wished 22 years ago that it had been a free swing on the house.
And what are the odds that the judge has ties to Vanderbilt with it being in Middle Tennessee?
Well, look, I don't know all the particulars. There are certain things where a judge ends up having to, listen to this big term, recuse himself.
Wow. Okay.
So that now I don't think just being in Nashville and Vandy's in Nashville, that's not a recuse yourself. But if a judge had serious ties to a university or an athletic department, the other side could say, look, you got to recuse yourself. And in the spirit of fair play and whatever in the hell's in the Geneva Convention, that would happen.
This is the first of its kind, though, guys. I mean, this is, there's been lawsuits against the NCAA, but dating back to a time where a player was in JUCO, this could start a wave that I don't think the NCAA wants. So,
Billy, sorry, George.
Go ahead.
Billy, you talk about not going to the NFL, though. I mean, you look at a Muggsy Bogues back in the day who was 5'5" and goes to the NBA. You never know what's going to happen. And he gets in and he plays well. He gets a shot. He'd probably be a free agent. But if you get a shot and you go in and play well, you never know. I mean, he might be the next Doug Flutie. Who knows?
Yeah, your first thought is to want to babble, oh, hell, that's not going to happen. But you know what? With this kid, I'm not getting caught.
I said that.
In that.
I went to one of their fall camp practices. I said the same thing. I thought Nate Johnson was going to start over this. I mean, he's been doing this his whole career.
I never thought that. Remember, I'd seen him play a year ago at New Mexico State.
But did you expect this so far?
Oh, hell no. Nobody did. Anybody that tells you they did is a liar. And has lied 9 times. Okay, we'll go to the break, and then here's the free swing on the house. I'm giving you a winner tonight. Kelly, I think you know that.
Okay, we'll see.
Yeah, sure we will.
We'll see.
This is 94.9 The Fan. This is my buddy Stan Harrison from Apple Collision Centers. Recently, you've been talking to me about companies that have a fleet of trucks and they're always in need of repairs.
That's right, George. We understand that nobody likes to deal with the auto body repair process. We try to simplify that at our 3 convenient locations. We work with all major insurance companies. We help to ease the stress of the auto body repair process. We're located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. If you need our services, please stop by and see us.
And how convenient that we have that in the background. Now, seriously, these are good folks. They do really good work. Give them a holler. Star Physical Therapy was established in 1997 with one great mission: to serve. If you're hurting, don't wait to receive physical therapy. You don't need a referral to see their physical therapist, and early morning and evening appointments are available. Make the call to 615-673-1420 and get rid of that pain. Star Physical Therapy, the official health provider of Football Friday.
Auto body repair process. We're located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. If you need our services, please stop by and see us.
And how convenient that we have that in the background. Now, seriously, these are good folks. They do really good work. Give them a holler.
Evan, Canty, and Michelle are unsportsmanlike.
Hear me clearly. The Bengals' season is over. They are not making the playoffs. Why do we want to keep hoping against hope? They're not a good football team. They're 4-6, and the only 4 wins they got are against teams that have 2 wins. They're not good. The Bengals aren't making the playoffs. It's over.
Evan, Canty, and Michelle are unsportsmanlike.
I don't think we're being fair to the Eagles. Other teams around the league have lost games that they're not supposed to lose. I have a tough time not giving a team credit that was dealing with all of the Sirianni turmoil. The fact that even a week ago we thought, oh, could he be gone if they lost the Jaguars? I'm just going to give them a little bit more credit than you guys are.
Unsportsmanlike. Weekday morning starting at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN2. You can't miss a moment with Greedy.
It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Final segment on a Wednesday. Got some good college hoops tonight. Vanderbilt and Cal over at Memorial Gym, 7 o'clock tip-off here in just over an hour. Tennessee hosting Montana. Got some action as well. We'll see where George is going with Bet of the Day, brought to you by Bart Durham Injury Law. First, let's check out what happened last night. Bowling Green got the win.
Bingo. Kelly, it's as simple as this. Once you go MAC, you can't ever go back.
Kelly's
well, you have nothing else going on tonight but MAC action. So here's like a couple of weeks ago we had Conference USA action. Now we got MAC action. Is that what we're doing here?
And in honor of Billy, I'm taking his favorite team, Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois, of course, as many
you're really
of you
going
know.
out on a limb there.
Well, it's against a point spread, Billy.
Billy,
I know
grow up, figure it out.
They're also playing.
You're hazy since you've been in Pennsylvania for the last 4 weeks.
They're playing Akron.
Yes, but there's a point spread involved, Billy. A point spread is designed for there to be 50% of the action on one team and 50% on the other.
I know that, George.
Yeah, well, apparently you were, as Kelly described, hazy.
Hazy.
Anyway, here's what you need to learn. Northern Illinois, they beat Notre Dame. They'll beat Akron.
Nice. I agree. I hate to
I'm
say
glad.
that, but I agree. I played up in Northern Illinois a long time ago, George.
Ooh.
I'm sure the stadium's changed, but as you say, it's a one-sided stadium. It was. I'm sure it's changed now.
I've done a game there, and I can honestly say it's a dump.
It is a dump. Yes.
It's a dump. Okay, tomorrow on the show, we will go down to Florida. Nick De La Torre, hope I've said his name right, is going to help us to understand what's going on in this Florida basketball situation. My gut feeling, Todd Golden ain't going to be there much longer. We'll find out what they think down there. Thanks for being with us today. Tell a friend, because we're doing good stuff on 94.9 The Fan.